guys, thank you for tuning in. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my top 3 tips on how to hem stretchy fabric without it getting all wavy and puckery and just completely unprofessional looking, alright? So before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys to check out my other videos, check out my playlist, hit that like button, and share this video with anybody that you think would love it.
So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to use stretchy fabric, which I got from an old t-shirt. And I'm guessing that what probably happens is that you get to the end of a project or midway through a project and you fold it over to hem it. And you use pins because that's a smarter thing to do. Anyway, so you fold it over to hem it and then you start stitching and you're thinking, oh yes, can't wait, I'm almost done with this project, it's gonna be bomb.com. And then you finish sewing and then you look at your hem and it looks like this. Horrible, not professional, it's not flat, it's got lumps, it's all puckered, ugh. The first problem might be the fact that you used a straight stitch. You never want to use straight stitch with stretchy fabric. You always want to use a zigzag stitch to allow space. The other problem is probably because you stretched your fabric while you were sewing it. So my number 3 solution for hemming stretchy fabric is to switch to a zigzag stitch. And that is it. For stitch length, I recommend 2.5 or anything in the middle. For width, in the middle, maybe 2.5 as well. For the tension, in the middle, 4.5, all right? And most importantly, when you're stitching, you do not want to stretch your fabric and you do not want to put pressure on your fabric either because that will cause it to stretch. Just keep your finger lightly on the fabric and just use your finger as a guide for the fabric so that it goes through straightly and evenly. And you'll see that it already looks a lot better, a lot flatter, and a lot smoother. So let's do a comparison of how it looks if you do it the not so good way, all puckery, and if you just use a zigzag stitch and don't stretch and put no pressure. Looks great. Now, my number 2 recommendation is Wash Away Wonder Tape. This thing is amazing, and just check the description box for a link on how to buy this tape. Now, what I suggest you do is you just decide how much tape you want to use. Now, if you're dealing with longer fabric, then obviously you can just do it step by step rather than pre-measuring it. And then cut it off the extra piece. So the way that this tape works is that on one side you have the sticky side, and on the other side you have the white part, but once you take the white part off, you'll get another sticky side. So you want to just put the sticky side on the fabric, make sure that the wrong side is facing up, and then just kind of smooth it down. And what I like to do is I like to just rip off the end, because when I rip it, then you naturally start to see the clear part kind of separating itself. And once it separates itself, I hold on to the clear part and I take the white part and just pull it off. So that way you also have the sticky side on the top as well. And then you just fold it over the way you would if you were gonna hem it and then pin it. Except in this case, you don't have to pin it, which is the amazing thing about this. Now, if you wanted to, you could even leave it like this without sewing it or anything like that, but I suggest it's always better to be safe. So I suggest you iron it down to really keep it nice and tacky and flat and smooth, and then go ahead and stitch over it. And again, I suggest you do a zigzag stitch because you are dealing with stretchy fabric and you want to allow the fabric space and room to stretch, okay? So once you've done that, it will look like this. And again, you can see that this looks a lot better than the first way that we were doing it with the straight stitch. So here's a comparison of solution number 2, number 3, and the original problematic way that we were doing it. And my number 1 recommendation for hemming stretchy fabric is the twin needle. I love the twin needle. And the pack that I have came with 3 different size twin needles, and basically each size determines how far apart each row of stitches will be from each other. My needles also came with this pintuck foot, but you could always just use like a regular straight stitch foot instead. So to install this foot, the first thing you want to do is you want to lift the original foot that you have, and then you want to just hold on to the foot and then press the metal thing in the back of your machine, and it's going to release your foot. Now make sure that your needle is up before you even start this process, but it's okay if it's not. Now you want to line up the line of the pintuck foot so that it's underneath that little groove. And then once you do that, you're just gonna lift up the metal thing in the back, and then you're gonna bring down your presser foot so that it grabs onto the pintuck foot. And then once you pull it up, you'll see that it's been attached. Now if you check your accessories drawer, you should be able to find this little tool, and you're gonna use it to loosen the needle. Make sure you hold onto your needle while you do this so that it doesn't fall through to the bottom where the bobbin is. To install the twin needle, you want to make sure that the flat side is toward the back and that the round side is towards the front. And then you're just going to take it and you're going to put it inside of that little groove, and then you're going to use your tool and you're going to tighten it. But again, make sure that your needle is pushed all the way up to the top as far as it can go, and you're just going to tighten it into place with your little tool. If you don't have the tool, you can use like a quarter or a coin or something. And then you're going to thread your machine the way that you normally would, and you definitely want to make sure to pass your thread through this little metal loop. That's super important. And then you're going to thread the needle on the left. So to thread the second needle, you're going to need another spool of thread or simply a bobbin, and you're going to just thread your machine the same exact way, following the same steps. But the only difference this time, and super important so that your threads do not get tangled, is that you're not going to put this thread through the loop. You're just going to skip that loop and you're going to directly pass the thread through the needle on the right side. So if you did it right, it should look like this, nice and neat, no tangles, everything just in line. And you want to switch that stitch back to the straight stitch, and that's important because you don't want to keep it on the zigzag stitch. You might break your needle in that way. And for the width and the tension, you want to keep it in the same setting as I mentioned before. And then obviously, if you're really doing this, you want to use pins, but it's okay for the sake of this tutorial. And then you're just going to put that foot down, pull the needles down as well. Do not shush the fabric, and just use your finger to guide it, and that is it. And when you're done, it will look like this. Beautiful, nice and professional. And on the other side, you can see that it created a sort of zigzag stitch. So as you can see, my rows of stitches are pretty close together. So if you want your rows farther apart, you just want to use a bigger needle, okay? My bonus tip for hemming stretchy fabric is the iron, okay? If you iron your hem as your final step, you'll get a flat lay and a very professional look to it. So guys, let me know which one of these solutions you're gonna use. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Ciao!